Confessions of a British Spy. Commentator's Preface. We're treating this book as a work of fiction, unverified through proper Islamic standards. Nevertheless, we will preserve the original document. The original translator's words have not been altered in any way other than exactifying some of the translated meanings of Quran or Hadith. Besides that, we have only added the Arabic text of Quranic citations, gave footnotes for clarity, and sometimes adjusted some punctuation, adding a comma where it is needed, or the like. We will not even adjust the transliteration system, which is lacking, to present the document as it was originally presented, and not even any translations that we do not prefer or approve, like saying the love of God instead of His acceptance. This is because God is clear of emotions and organs, and nothing is whatsoever like Him. Unfortunately, not all information in this book is correct. The original translator, as well as the spy, have both made mistakes, so be on alert. Our work on this book is just for the general benefit of the people, for indeed, this work that has been discounted as fiction truly contains many lessons. Surely, the compliance is from God, the Almighty and Powerful. Said the author.
Section 1. In the Hijri year 1122 CE, 1710, the Minister of the Commonwealth sent me to Egypt, Iraq, Hijaz and Istanbul to act as a spy, and to obtain information necessary and sufficient for the breaking up of the Muslims. The ministry appointed 9 more people, full of agility and courage, for the same mission and at the same time. In addition to the money, information and maps we would need, we were given a list containing names of statesmen, scholars and chiefs of tribes. I will never forget. When I said farewell to the secretary, he said, "The future of our state is dependent on your success. Therefore you should exert your utmost energy." I set out on a voyage to Istanbul, the center of the Islamic Caliphate. Besides my primary duty, I was to learn Turkish very well, the native language of the Muslims there. I had already learned in London a considerable amount of Turkish, Arabic and Persian, the language of the Iranians. Yet learning a language was quite different from speaking that language like its native speakers. While the former skill can be acquired in a matter of a few years, the latter requires a duration of time, several times as long as this. I had to learn Turkish with all its subtleties, lest the people should suspect me. I was not anxious that they should suspect me, for Muslims are tolerant, open-hearted, benevolent, as they have learnt from their Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. They are not skeptical like us. After all, at that time the Turkish government did not have an organization to arrest spies. After a very tiresome voyage, I arrived in Istanbul. I said my name was Muhammad and began to go to the mosque, Muslims' temple. I like the way Muslims observe discipline, cleanliness and obedience. For a moment, I said to myself, why are we fighting these innocent people? Is this what our Lord Jesus Christ advised us? But I once recovered from this diabolical thought and decided to carry out my duty in the best manner. In Istanbul, I met an old scholar named Ahmad Effendi. With his elegant manners, open-heartedness, spiritual limpidity, and benevolence, none of our religious men I had seen could have equaled him. This person endeavored day and night to make himself like the Prophet Muhammad. According to him, Muhammad was the most perfect, the highest man. Whenever he mentioned his name, his eyes would become wet. I must have been very lucky, for he did not even ask who I was or where I was from. He would address me as Muhammad Effendi. He would answer my questions and treat me with tenderness and with compassion, for he considered me a guest who had come to Istanbul to work in Turkey and to live in the shadow of the Khalifa, the representative of the Prophet Muhammad. Indeed, this was the pretext I used to stay in Istanbul. One day I said to Ahmad Effendi, "My parents are dead. I don't have any brothers or sisters, and I haven't inherited any property. I came to the center of Islam to work for a living and to learn Quran al-Karim and the Sunnah, that is, to earn both my worldly needs, and my life in the hereafter. He was very delighted with these words of mine, and said, "You deserve to be respected for these 3 reasons." I'm writing down exactly what he said. Number 1, you are a Muslim. All Muslims are brothers. Number 2, you are a guest. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam declared, "Offer kind hospitality to your guests." Number 3, you want to work? There is a hadith stating that the person who works is beloved to Allah. These words pleased me very much. I said to myself, would that there were such bright truths in Christianity too? It's a shame there aren't any. What surprised me was the fact that Islam, such a noble religion as it was being degenerated in the hands of these conceited people who were quite unaware of what was going on in life. I said to Ahmad Effendi that I wanted to learn the Quran al-Kareem. He replied that he would teach me with pleasure, and began to teach me the Fatiha. He would explain the meanings as we read. I had great difficulty pronouncing some words. In 2 years' time, I read through the whole Quran al-Kareem. Before each lesson, he would make an ablution, and also command me to make an ablution. He would sit towards the Qibla, and then began teaching. What Muslims call ablution consisted of a series of washings as follows. Number 1, washing the face. Number 2, washing the right arm from fingers to elbows. Number 3, washing the left arm from fingers to elbows. Number 4, making masah of the head, backs of the ears, backs of the neck. Number 5, washing both feet. Having to use the miswak vexed me very much. Miswak is a twig with which they, the Muslims, clean their mouth and teeth. I thought this piece of wood was harmful for the mouth and teeth. Sometimes it would hurt my mouth and cause bleeding. Yet I had to use it, for according to them, using the miswak was a mu'akkad sunnat of the Prophet. They said this wood was very useful. Indeed, the bleeding of my teeth came to an end, and the foul breath that I had till that time, and which most British people have, was gone. During my stay in Istanbul, I spent nights in a room I had rented from a man responsible for the service in a mosque. This servant's name was Marwan Effendi. Marwan is the name of one of the Sahaba, companions of the Prophet Muhammad. The servant was a very nervous man. He would boast about his name and tell me that if I should have a son in the future, I should name him Marwan, because Marwan is one of Islam's greatest warriors. Marwan Effendi would prepare the evening dinner. I would not go to work on Friday, a holiday for Muslims. On the other days of the week, I worked for a carpenter named Khalid, being paid on a weekly basis. Because I worked part-time, i.e. from the morning till noon, he would give me half of the wage he gave the other employees. This carpenter would spend much of his free time telling me about the virtues of Khalid bin Walid. Khalid bin Walid, one of the Sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad, is a great mujahid, a warrior for Islam. He accomplished various Islamic conquests, yet his dismissal from office by Omar bin Khattab during the latter's caliphate chafed the carpenter's heart. Khalid, the carpenter for whom I worked, was an immoral and extremely neurotic person. He somehow trusted me very much. I do not know why, but perhaps it was because I always obeyed him. He ignored the Sharia in his secret manners, yet when he was with his friends, he would display obedience to the commandments of the Sharia. He would attend the Friday prayers, but I am not sure about the other daily prayers. I would have breakfast in the shop. After I worked, I would go to the mosque for early afternoon prayer and would sit there till late afternoon prayer. After late afternoon prayer, I would go to Ahmad Effendi's place, where he would teach me such lessons as reading Quran al-Kareem, Arabic and Turkish languages for 2 hours. Every Friday, I would give him my weekly earnings because he taught me very well. Indeed, he taught me how to read Quran al-Kareem very well, requirements of the Islamic religion and the subtleties of Arabic and Turkish languages. When Ahmad Effendi knew that I was single, he wanted me to marry one of his daughters. I refused his offer, but he insisted, saying that marriage is a sunnah of the Prophet, and that the Prophet had stated that a person who turns away from my sunnah is not of me. Apprehending that this event might put an end to our personal dealings, I had to lie to him, saying that I lacked sexual power. Thus I ensured the continuance of our acquaintance and friendship. When my 2-year stay in Istanbul was over, I told Ahmed Effendi I wanted to go back home. He said, "No, don't go. Why are you going? You can find anything you might look for in Istanbul. Allah Ta'ala has placed both the religion and the world at the same time in the city. You say that your parents are dead and that you have no brothers or sisters. Why don't you settle down in Istanbul?" Ahmed Effendi had formed a compulsive dependence upon my company. For this reason, he did not want to part company with me and insisted that I should make my home in Istanbul. But my patriotic sense of duty compelled me to go back to London, to deliver a detailed report concerning the centre of the Caliphate and to take new orders. Throughout my stay in Istanbul, I sent reports of my observations monthly to the Ministry of the Commonwealth. I remember asking in one of my reports what I was to do should the person I was working for ask me to practice sodomy with him. The reply was, "You can do it if it will help you to attain your goal." I was very much indignant over this answer. I felt as if the whole world had fallen down on my head. I already knew that this vicious deed was very common in England, yet it had never occurred to me that my superiors would command me to commit it. What could I do? I had no other way to empty the drug to the dregs. So I kept quiet and went on with my duty. As I said farewell to Ahmed Effendi, his eyes became wet and he said to me, "My son, may Allah Ta'ala be with you. If you should come back to Istanbul and see that I am dead, remember me. Say the Surah Fatiha for my soul. We will meet on Judgment Day before Rasulullah." Indeed, I felt very sad too, so much so that I shed warm tears. However, my sense of duty was naturally stronger.